Hello everybody and welcome back to Sweet and Sour Soccer. It's another weekend of championship fixtures and I am really enjoying doing these championship predictions. Guys, if you are enjoying watching them, please do what it says exactly there. Hit that like button and also please do subscribe to the channel. Now, this is a massive game of championship fixtures. Some great fixtures at the top of the table as well as towards the bottom of the table. It's a real good lineup, to be honest, and let's jump straight into it. We start off with a game that's actually being played on the Friday night, Bournemouth versus Nottingham Forest. Obviously, Bournemouth currently in second position. 3 wins in a row. They had a great transfer window, and I think they really are now pushing to solidify that second place. They did lose to Boreham Wood in the FA Cup, of course, and Nottingham Forest, on the other hand, are having much better success in the FA Cup, having knocked out both Arsenal and, of course, local rivals Leicester City as well on their way to the 5th round. This is going to be a really close game. It really is. And I think Forest are going to be wanting to push on. I think, obviously currently sat in, I think it's 8th position, isn't it? They're sat in at the moment. I think they're really going to want to push on, solidify that championship spot. I'm going to go 1-1. I think this is going to be a really interesting, good game for Friday night on the telly. I'm going to go 1-1. We move on to Fulham versus Huddersfield. And, of course, Fulham are really now starting to pull away at the top. They're 10 points clear of 3rd place. And they also do have games in hand on those within the playoff spots, either 1 or 2 games. Mitrovic, of course, has also broke the championship record with about, 15 games still to play. Really is astonishing. And as I say, 10 points clear. You can't have 3rd place. You can't really blame people for starting to already discuss what Fulham might do in the Premier League next season. Of course, they won't have their eyes on the Prem yet. They've still got a lot to get through and a lot to do. They play a Huddersfield team that have drawn the last 2 games. They're doing quite well defensively, as they were both 0-0 draws, but really do need to start adding goals. Huddersfield's defence is quite like a good defence, and I think Fulham have ran away at times in this championship race with goals. I don't think they will here. I think they'll still get the win, but just a narrow 1-0 win. We move on to QPR taking on the Tigers. And this is going to be a really interesting fixture because QPR sitting in 4th, only 1 win in the last 5. Also picking up losses to Barnsley and Millwall in the last 2. Talk about Barnsley a bit later, but that was a really bad defeat for them at QPR. Also, Hull sitting in 20th, only 1 win in their last 5. But on the way, they had a narrow 1-0 loss to Fulham. And they also got a draw against Sheffield United, which was a really good result, to be fair. QPR at home, and they're really going to want to kick on now. We'll get rid of the recent form. I'm going to go for a 2-0 QPR win. We move on to Coventry and Barnsley. And I've just spoke about Barnsley, who actually got a massive win last week. I think it was their first league win since the 3rd of November, which ended a 13-game drought without a win for Barnsley. Coventry, on the other hand, sitting 12th in mid-table, could push on to the playoffs, but their current form is sort of suggesting they probably won't. It's a real mixed bag of results. Barnsley are going to be very confident after their win, the big win over QPR. And I don't blame Coventry fans for calling me a moron here, especially with Coventry being the home team. You've just sometimes got to trust your gut, though. And I am going to say that Barnsley are going to win this one 2-1. I know that's a very big call and I will accept any abuse coming my way. Sheffield United versus Swansea City is our next fixture. Sheffield United are sitting in 8th position at the moment, obviously in a playoff battle. 4 wins and 2 draws in the last 6 fixtures. And, Swansea, I'm talking about the playoffs for Sheffield United. It's sadly running away for them. Currently 16th position. 2 wins in the last 5, but they really would need some good form to pick up, obviously a playoff position now. Sheffield United have drawn the last 2, and I really do think at home they're going to want to rectify that. And I am going to go for a 1-0 Sheffield United win. We move on to Bristol City versus Middlesbrough. Bristol City, this is almost a similar story, really. Bristol City, a bit similar to Swansea. They're not going to go down. They're probably not going to push on for a playoff place now. Just obviously want to finish the season quite strong. Middlesbrough, on the other hand, very similar story to Sheffield United, pushing for the playoff positions at the end of the season. They're, they're sixth at the moment and they're in good form as well. The form that they had in the last 5 fixtures especially is very much what would be playoff form. Bristol City are at home, but I'm going to go for a Middlesbrough 2-0 win. We move on to Blackburn versus Millwall, and a team that's currently sat in 3rd place, but they are clinging on to that 3rd place for dear life. At one point, we were talking about Blackburn, basically going up through the automatic positions. They're now going to have to get better form, really, to even stay in the playoffs. They're really not scoring enough. Just 1 goal in their last 6 games really does show where the problems lie for Blackburn. It's not a defensive issue, but they really need to start scoring. Millwall, on the other hand, they've scored 2 in the last 2 games, as in 4 goals in total. Big wins. The confidence will be there for Millwall. It really will. And I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw here, which might be a bit of a shock, but it's just a feeling that I have. We're talking about Luton Town versus West Bromwich Albion next. And Luton Town, it was a disappointing result, wasn't it? And the last round of fixtures, a 3-0 defeat to Birmingham City. They played Barnsley just before that and they won 2-1, but they actually had less possession, less shots on target, and didn't really look the better team out of the 2. West Brom, on the other hand, they'll be after a Brucey bonus because Steve Bruce has not got a win whilst managing them yet. Please, I completely understand if you turn off at this point in the video because that was an absolutely terrible joke. But I do think West Brom might get the win here, to be honest. Sorry, Luton Town fans. I think recent form has maybe suggested that you guys won't get the win. And I think West Brom under Steve Bruce now will really be looking to kick on. They're currently sat in, I think it's 9th position at the moment. And the playoffs are starting to disappear if they don't start kicking on. And that's exactly what Steve Bruce has been brought in for, to get in those playoffs and ideally get West Brom back up. We move on to Preston North End versus Reading. A game which, Preston unbeaten in 6 now. Only 2 goals in the last 4, though. They're currently sat in 11th. They're only 4 points off the playoffs, but they have played more games than most. So, it's maybe a bit of an artificial 4th points. But nonetheless, Preston North End fans will be hoping that they can push on. Like a lot of teams are still in this playoff race, aren't they? Reading, on the other hand, are not in the playoff race, and they're flirting with relegation. It's almost flirting. It's like when you see a friend flirting with a girl and you know he shouldn't be, it's a disaster. He shouldn't be doing it. You're trying to pull them away, but they just won't. They just won't go. No wins in 11. Highest goals conceded, joint highest goals conceded in the Championship with 60 goals conceded. So you can see where Reading's problems are really coming from. With that in mind, Preston being at home as well, I am going to go for a 2-0 Preston win. I think there will be more goals shipped. Sorry, Reading. Stoke versus Blues next. And, of course, Blues are going to be full of confidence after that win with Luton Town. Look, Stoke actually in 13th, and this proves how close the Championship race is because you have to still argue that they're in and around the playoffs, especially with having 1 game in hand on most of the people that that are currently in the playoffs. But as I say, defensively, Birmingham are defensively looking a bit weak. They lost Sanderson, who got recalled to Wolves in January, and haven't really looked as solid defensively there. Also losing their goalkeeper to Wolves as well, who sadly did pick up an injury and had to return to Wolves on loan for the rest of the season due to that injury. And goals have really started to creep in more since then. I guess this is a bit of a Midlands derby, isn't it, really? But I am going to go for Stoke being at home to win this, and I'm going to go for a 2-1 win to Stoke City. Now, this is a game that needs no introduction whatsoever. Derby County versus Peterborough. It's 22nd versus 23rd. This is massive. It really is a massive fixture. Both teams are going to want to be winning this. Both teams need to win it as well. Obviously, Reading are the ones clinging on. I spoke about them. They'll have both their eyes set on capturing Reading. But this is a massive, massive game. It's a big 6-pointer. Derby, bit of a positive news. Some would argue it's a negative, but Mike Ashley declaring his interest still in buying Derby hopefully can save them as a football club. But they'll be focusing on what's happening on the pitch, not what's happening off it. They are at home. They come against a Peterborough team that both actually aren't in the best forms, let's be honest, but there's no surprise because they're near the bottom. This is going to be a difficult one. I'm going to go for Derby County, a narrow 2-1 win, to be honest, on this one. And this is our last fixture, Cardiff City versus Blackpool. Look, this is going to be an interesting game. It really is. I mean, both of them are kind of not really going to be in the playoffs. Cardiff, of course, won 4 on the bounce, and that has really pushed them away from the relegation talk. Now they're safe. Blackpool, 2 wins, 2 draws, and a defeat in their last 5. I'm going to go for a draw here. I think there's goals in this as well. I'm going to go 2-2, and that is my final prediction of this weekend's fixtures. I will be back on Sunday for the midweek fixtures that are coming up. Guys, as I said at the start of the video, please remember to hit that like button, and please do subscribe if you're new here. Let me know your predictions as well. Let me know your thoughts. Feel free to call me an idiot, and hopefully I'll see you on the next championship predictions. Goodbye.